But a lot of them mainly came in this the speech that the chairman made. But he had a character called the chairman who had to talk on behalf of his side and Billy the other side. And they would do those sort of things to evoke laughter. And then the next speech would probably talk about their king or their queen being magnificent and Billy the other one, you know? And so that happened before each section. There were actually three sections. The procession, where you would have the different groups coming from their plantation or coming from their community, making, it's like a sound clash nowadays with the sound system. That is what the sound system thing is something that takes its, I think it's formed from the Bruckins party.
My name is Waldane Walker. You're listening to Wat Ah Bruckins, part of the Voices of Jamaica podcast series made possible by the Alpha School of Music with support from the Public Affairs Office of the U.S. Embassy Kingston. In this two-part episode, I talk with a man who serves as educator, cultural practitioner Bruckins King, and the director of the Manchioneal Cultural Performance Group in Portland, Mr. Richard Darby, affectionately known to many as the Culture Man. Join in listening as he shares his story and also his love and infectious passion for the traditional practice of Bruckins in Jamaica. See you right today. Hello, Mr. Richard Darby. How are you doing?
I'm alive and well.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to this podcast episode, Wat Ah Bruckins. I'm excited to have you, and you are a part of the Manchioneal Performance Group or Manchioneal Cultural Group, correct?
It's Manchioneal Cultural Group. I am the leader of the Manchioneal Cultural Group.
And how long have you been the leader of the group, or how long has the group been around? What is the Manchioneal Cultural Group?
Well, the Manchioneal Cultural Group is probably the oldest group in Jamaica that does traditional folk form. Oldest in terms of how long we have been around. We have been around since the mid-1970s.
The 70s?
At that time, yes. At that time, it was my mother, my foster mother, who was leading the group. When she passed on in 87, I took over. Going on since that.
Walking in the footsteps of those who have left legacy behind. I love it, Mr. Darby. I love it. And what does the Manchioneal Cultural Group do? What do you guys stand for?
All right. Originally, we were called Manchioneal Bruckins Group because, in each parish there's an indigenous folk form, and Bruckins is for Portland. So that's what we were doing in the 70s coming up. But going across Jamaica, festival and other events, we saw other folk forms that we became interested in. And so I went around, I shared Bruckins with others, and I learned from them. So right now we do, I would say, all of the folk forms in Jamaica. Well, not all, most of the folk forms, including Bruckins, Komina, Maple, Quadrille, Dinky, Minute, Tambo, Gere, you name it. We do those things. In addition, we do some of the popular music forms, dancing, storytelling, stand-up comedy, just about anything in the performing arts. But our main focus is the traditional folk forms.
It's the traditional folk forms. And that brings me to ask this question. Everybody say, these things are old-time thing. Why do you continue to do it?
Okay, well, to be honest, there are many persons in Jamaica who are not connected to their roots, connected to the Jamaican culture. Luckily, I grew up in a community called Manchioneal in East Portland that was strong in culture. And when you live in that area, there's always these things happening. And so you don't have to go and learn it. It's around you and you gradually become a part of it. And I've had fulfillment participating in the folk forms for over 40 years. It has taken me so many places, met so many persons, and it's a joy when I pass on to these children and they grow up later on being leaders for different performing groups too, The traditional folk form is rooted in me. Once I hear the drums, I have to go on. And I've passed it on to so many, there are about 300 persons who have passed through my cultural group. And from time to time, I am so pleased when I see them using the form in teaching, in other groups, working at entertainment jobs and so forth, the ancestors would be disappointed if we didn't continue them because they are all rooted in something, either some festival, some celebration, some family traditions and all that. So it's very important that we keep it going. And right now it's mainly young persons I have in my group. First time it used to be just old people doing these things. But luckily I teach at a school and I can start them early. So it has been continuing because of that.
I love those two things. I love that the ancestors would be disappointed and that you have started sharing all of this knowledge with these youngsters at the early age so that they can start practicing and carrying the traditions on. And I'm happy that you spoke about Bruckins in your very introduction to tell us that Bruckins came from Portland. So tell us some more about Bruckins. What is Bruckins and where did it come from? Why is it significant to our Jamaican culture?
Let's examine the word first of all. Bruckins. Yes. It's Bruckins. Now, in Jamaica, when you broke up something, not the physical break, but it's a term to say you end something. You broke up a session, you end it. So the Bruckins dance is actually the ending, the culminating of a very special event called Bruckins Party. The whole thing was Bruckins Party. It's a grand celebration that was used to commemorate Emancipation Day, 1st of August. And so, back in the plantation days, there were several times when the slaves got news that slavery ended and they started to celebrate. And they celebrated too early and were punished for it. So when it really came in 1838, they weren't so sure they should celebrate. Yes. So they stood alone and they sat at a place in Manchioneal called Lazy Bridge, which is the entrance to the Merton Estates. And they started to sing little songs about freedom and so forth. And when they really realized that it was, really freedom time, August 1st had gone. So it wasn't until the next year, 1839, that they had this first celebration, wherein there were two plantations, Merton Estate and another one close by. They had a contest. And what the Bruckins really was doing is sort of mimicking their masters. Now that they're free, they started to dress up like royal persons, kings and queens, and they did a lot of speechify talk, nonsense speech that sort of mimic how their masters sung to them. But in a sense, the Bruckins dance is really a contest between two sets of performance. Usually it was plantation against plantation, then it became community against community. And at the end of it all, they would, after they have the tea meeting and the speechify talk and the unveiling of the bread and all of that, I'm just giving the different elements. At the end of it, they would have the dance contest, the Bruckins dance to end it up. Now the Bruckins also is symbolic of breaking the chains. Breaking the chains for
yes, I was just about to ask that because I've heard that
a lot about freedom, and Queen Victoria is celebrated because she was the one who had signed the paper for freedom. So in the dance, the lead dancer is the Queen. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of songs singing about the Queen of coming or Queen Victoria setting free and all that.
I've heard that one. This is the year of Jubilee. Queen Victoria, yes, I've heard that one. Great, and I love that the Bruckins have so many parts to it, has so many components, right? Because there's a dance and there's also the party that's attached to it, which came out of this contest between these two different plantations. Then it went into community, and I'm sure it brought them a joy rather than being only competitive. It brought them that happiness coming out of emancipation. So I wanted to ask you a bit more about the technique in the movement and so on. How is it done? What would I have to do if you're, teaching somebody or sharing it with somebody verbally?
Well, to be honest, teaching somebody to dance the different steps, we call them steps, associated with Bruckins,
yes,
is you can hardly get them to do it in the authentic way because what they are seeing might deceive them. For example, there's a movement that they call bend up your back. And if you listen to it, you try to bend your back and hurt yourself. It's actually bending your knees and throwing back your torso.
Yes.
Right? And when you do that now, it's not the movement is mainly with the hands, pulling up the hands And when you pull your hands, it shows the body forward. So the person's looking and would feel that it's a pelvic area moving in a sort of, in Jamaica, where term we call jam, right?
Yes.
When they start to do this, they do a thing that is really awkward. So I'm saying that when you grow up around the dance, it's easier for you to catch on. But I've been doing workshops with persons around and sort of giving them the basic moves.
Yes.
So for the Bruckins, there's the movement like take off your shoes, bend up your back, rock your body, rock steady, beautiful style, and the songs are what guides you, because the song, you will have to move according to the part of the song. It says, Mr. If you bend up your back and silo, then you will have to be bending your back. If it says take off your shoes, if you take off your shoes, it's like you're moving your foot like this. Rock your body, you're going one side and the next side. Rock steady is staying on one side. Right? So there are various moves associated with the song. The song, as a matter of fact, you hardly do rehearsal, bro, because it's the leader who tells you what to do in most of the folk forms, and you follow what the lead singer is saying.
I really am fascinated by these different steps and different moves. Can you share them again with me? I heard broke your back and take off your shoes.
If it says bend your back, what you actually do is bend your knees and show your body back and put your hands forward. So the further you can bend your back, the further you can go, right? And it's just like putting your hands from your waist to your navel. Cross your hands with this, like you're breaking the chain. It's bend up your back, bend up your back. If it's rock your body, rock one side to the other side. That's rock your body. Rock steady is on one side, right? Take off your shoes. It's actually moving your foot in the air or just touching the ground while you're doing the dance, right? We have different dance for the kings and queens. So like there's something called beautiful style, which is sort of a curtsy or a bow. We go down, going in, and it's like a smoking skirts and dip. Just like when you're doing things like what you're saying, yes, you may take this dance. Those are some of the different moves. You're sword fighting the kings and queens. The kings are fighting their sword while they're dancing, so you're mimicking, getting the sword, we call it wrestling. So those are some of the basic ones, but different characters will also have their unique move that they create based on what is going on.
I love that. And did any of these moves per se were derived from the plantation owners? Because you did mention that the practice was a mockery, right, of the plantation owners in what they did. So these moves, the bend up your back and the take off your shoes and the rock steady, would those have been emulated or taken from the plantation owners and what they used to do in courts and so on?
All right. What you find, I'm going to give you a little secret to some of the movements. Using your foot and your hands, the Africans were always looking away to get off the plantation, to stop working. Yeah. And so the masters didn't understand some of the things. And so while they were dancing and moving their hands, they were using their foot, they were like writing messages or sending messages to persons looking on. And that was the time they could get together, to send messages to say, yeah man, we're going to do this later and so forth. So that's not something they practiced when they met and dance. So that after Bruckins, after emancipation, all of that came into the dance, right? Some of the movements also came from John Kuno, that they were privileged to have during Christmas time on the plantation, right? But a lot of the staunch upright movements, as you said, could have been them mimicking all their masters look while they were walking, very, straight, not just like the African move, where just free and flowing. So that stylistics out of dance would be mimicking how their masters look. But a lot of the mimicking mainly came in this speech that the chairman made. He had a character called the chairman who had to talk on behalf of his side and Billy the other side. And they would do those sort of things to evoke laughter. And then the next speech would probably talk about their king or their queen being magnificent and Billy the other one, And so that happened before each section. There were actually three sections. The procession, where you would have the different groups coming from their plantation or coming from the community, making, it's like a sound clash nowadays with the sound system. That is what the sound system thing is something that takes its, I think it's formed from the Bruckins party. They come to cheer on the sound and make it nice and come. When they get there, the DJ take the mic and talk about theme sound. That's how the chairman used to do in Bruckins. And then the actual music and dance was to sort of get your crowd cheering with you. The sound clash is really a carryover of the Bruckins party. And so you find that the chairman would speak, and then he would introduce the queen would come out and dance. There's a part what we call unveiling of the showbread. Mm-hmm. There's a big table set with a lot of food and drink and flowers and just like almost like a revival table. So in the middle of that table is a big white bread that we call showbread. Now before anything, not the chairman now, the master ceremony will have to call persons to come and bill to unveil that bread. And when they unveil, persons will buy a lot of slices from it because the highest bidder will get to cut the first slice. That was symbolic because when they came as black Africans, the white persons bid for them.
Yes, auctions, yes.
So they are free, they put a white bread and the black person is bidding. God. So it's just a lot of everything in the dance has some connection to what happened to them in that journey from Africa to slavery to freedom. Yes. Right? Everything is connected. And so after the chairman, after that is done, so the procession, they have the tea meeting. The tea meeting is not like we call a concert where persons pay money for one person to come up and do an item, or you pay the money to take him down. All of that went down because it was a community affair. And everybody has to get in. When all of that is done now, all this time the queen is there, very veiled. Nobody knows who is the queen because she's covered. And again, you'll have to sing a song like, the king and queen arrive and no money not show. Throw money through, make the queen vanga show. Because you want the queen to dance and show her vanga. So the vanga is our petticoat. Most of them nowadays people know what a petticoat is. But it'll be like our undergarment. And it'll be adorned with sequins and so forth. So everybody wants to see that.
Yes.
And they see that. So let's throw money to it that happen. And when you unveil, you see who is the queen for that year. And everybody will rejoice. And the kings will have to fight to see who is going to dance with the queen. And they get the privilege to dance with the queen. A lot of that is not happening anymore because even Emancipation Day is not so significant to most Jamaicans again. And this dance used to happen from the night before 1st of August right into the morning. In the morning, when the sun is coming up, all that procession ends. And they would sing a song like, the day that dawn, the day that dawn. I mean, the sun is coming up, so everything done and they're going back home. I would say a winner has to be declared that night, which group wins, and that group that wins will get to sit at the table and eat all of the food while the other side entertain them. I don't know that would work nowadays, but that is how it was in those days. And definitely look forward to that Bruckins party.
You just listened to part 1 of Wat Ah Bruckins.
Where you wait, pan? Go on and listen to part 2.
My name is Waldane Walker. You're listening to Wat Ah Bruckins, part of the Voices of Jamaica podcast series made possible by the Alpha School of Music with support from the Public Affairs Office of the U.S. Embassy Kingston.
For more information about the Voices of Jamaica and the stories they tell, please visit the Alpha School of Music website, alphamusicja.com, and click on the Voices of Jamaica link.